Hello, and welcome back for another Sims video today. We are going to be building an autumnal Tudor-styled home. So if you're not familiar with this style, there's generally like steeply pitched gabled roofs, there's decorative half timbering, there's a lot of wood components on the inside, some really nice masonry, chimneys, you have arched windows, arched doors, just anything like that. That's kind of what gives you that Tudor style. To me, whenever I think of like autumnal, I don't know why, but it just seems like Tudor styled homes are more cozy. And also it just fits my aesthetic a little bit better because I like to do more older type style homes, because more modern homes I don't get the clutter in as much. So I always like to do something like that. But I was itching to do some fall builds. We started this over on Twitch and did a few streams working on this. So I'm excited to get into this. So one of the trickiest things I'll go ahead and say right off the bat with this build was that it was like fine with getting the shape. I was really pleased with the shape of the shell. I was able to get it down pretty quickly. But what wasn't working really well for me was the roofing, and I had some like particular features that I wanted to showcase with the roof that I was trying to make work. And so right now I wanted this to be the front of the house. And like I said, usually with more Tudor style homes, you have a higher pitched roof. And so I wanted that really nice look where you have like the curved roof on one side, but it is like more straight angled on the other side. And it wasn't blending very well, and I would have had to stretch it out further to make it look smoother, because in The Sims, whenever you start to curve the roof pieces, it doesn't always look really nice and smoothly curved if it's not high enough or wide enough, and you get these weird kind of angles in it, and it looks like it's very cutty and edgy and juts out, and it just wasn't looking very great. So what was the back actually ended up being the front. I actually flipped the house around. I was like, let's use the back as the front, because that one I liked a lot better, and you can see here with that curved part of the roof where the front door is going to go. That's what I was trying to go for on the front, and it just wasn't working very well. But I'm putting in the little like masonry elements and the paneling with the wood elements, and I just think that it came across really well. Now, one thing obviously with it being an autumnal build was I think of a lot of oranges. So like reds, yellows, oranges, like the leaves are turning, browns, things of that nature. So I wanted to go more with this orangey color, and I wanted the brick as well. So I was really excited. I've not built something that's quite like this, so I was excited to put the brick with that wood paneling type stuff that we get from Get Together, because Get Together was definitely with Windenburg, very Tudor style. So if you're not familiar with that, that's a really great expansion pack. If you love Tudor style homes and you want to be able to build more Tudor style homes, it came in handy for this build quite a bit. Now, I'm just like putting some nice little details on the roofing, and I wanted the little kind of dormer piece just to give a more heightened variation to it. So with the roof pieces having to be so steep, it just looks weird to not have something more there. Otherwise, it's just a lot of roof, which is not a bad thing. It was just a personal preference. So now I'm like working on the front porch area. I was trying to figure out the right staircase and how I wanted it to look. Now, obviously with it being a lot of wood, that I already knew, but trying to cross match wood tones from different packs, that's the tricky part with this, because we oftentimes don't get the same colors and brown colors and wood tones across packs and even within packs, which is very obnoxious. Don't even get me started, because I definitely came across that during this build where we did not get the same types of things. But I wanted to use this really pretty bay window, and I put a roof piece over it like it's built into the house a bit more. And I used these stained glass windows quite a bit on the front part of the house. I do this often. I don't know why, but the fronts of my builds tend to have, not always, but tend to have like different windows than around the rest of the build. And I think that's pretty common, where you might have feature windows on the front of the house, for street, curb appeal, whatever, and you're like featuring some really pretty stained glass, or have a really cool looking window that's a cool shape or something that draws your attention to the house itself. So that was my idea with doing that. So I put these like stained glass windows more so on the front of the house, and then I find some regular windows to put elsewhere around the house. And what ended up working really well for this was that with that door being the curved arch, I wanted to incorporate some type of arched window in some capacity around that. Otherwise, it just kind of looks odd. So I ended up going with these that match the other windows that I had put with the stained glass. Now, the stained glass has like this green, blue, yellow combination, which in a way is kind of nice, because we have these warm tones all over the place with it being autumnal with the reds, yellows, and oranges. So getting a little touch of green and blue was really nice, and I end up using green a little bit as an accent color on the inside as well. And this is just a trick. If you see me doing this and you're like, what are you doing? If you want the trim, I always like to have it separate, especially if I have different materials on the bottom floor versus the top floor. I like to have a trim separate it. You can only place a trim if you have a floor above it, like a second story, and it'll place it between the two floors. So I will build a room for a temporary placement, and then I'll add the trim, and then you can delete the room and the trim will stay. So that's like a cute little cheat code there for you if you want to be able to do that and separate your materials a little bit better. Now, I did end up putting a little side door here, which looks awkward, but whenever you think about old Tudor style homes, it is similar in some capacity to Victorian homes, because Victorian homes also have some really odd nooks and crannies, and just the layouts can be a little weird and awkward in today's standards. And so I thought it was cute to add a little side door there where it's kind of scrunched in. And it was like maybe an afterthought, like, oh, let's just add a door there. So I have a door there, which is going to be what's off the kitchen. And then I also have one off the master bedroom. So there are two back doors, so to speak. Now, I wanted to raise the living room area up on a platform, which I think adds a little bit more character and dimension to these types of builds. I wasn't necessarily thinking split level style, but it was kind of along those same lines with older homes, and that was a lot more common in older homes. Now, with the kitchen, I ended up using the Snowy Escape cabinets, which has a lot of open shelves, which are great for cluttering if you like to clutter in the game. And it has this nice wood tone that matches really well too with the orangey wood tone style. Now, I did like cross match some different wood tones. So we have like a darker brown wood tone and then this kind of orangey brown wood tone. And I think they balance each other really well to lend to like the rustic charm and also just warming up the space a good bit. You don't want everything to be the same color necessarily. It begins to become a bit much to look at on the eyes. So it's always nice to have some different shading of some sort. And you can do that with wood tones and it still come across really well. I think eventually whenever I put the floors and the ceilings in, that it kind of combines the different shades of brown that I use everywhere else. I think I end up using the life and death flooring, but I can't quite remember. It's been a minute since I've looked at this one. But I wanted to put like open shelving in the kitchen. Again, that just screams like older to me, although it's definitely had a comeback in modern homes with the open shelving concept. I think that I would love to have open shelves. I have some open shelves in my kitchen right now, and they're just covered with cluttered like decorations and glassware, really pretty aesthetic with some plants and books. So I love having open shelving. And then I went with this like yellow tile for the kitchen. Keep in mind that we're bringing in yellows, oranges, and reds. So that was a like no-brainer to me. Now, I end up adding a little bit of this backsplash that we got. Now, I get it's not quite the same vibes, but I think it lent to a nice rustic charm feel to it because I went with the green appliances, like with the stove, and that kind of backsplash adds in a green and a touch of blue, which again is in the stained glass windows, which are right beside it in the kitchen. And I think it ended up working really well because the orange was a bit much without the backsplash there. If it was all orange, it would have been a bit heavy. So since I used the orange in the kitchen space, I just thought that this was a good way to balance it to where you had a little bit of a backsplash area. And then I have my dining space off of the kitchen right here. And again, just going with all these wood tones. Oh, this is the flooring I used. I think I might have used Life and Death for the ceiling. I don't remember. I can't remember. I do love this plank flooring though. So I think it goes really well with the style of the furniture that we have everywhere else. And I thought it would be unique in the kitchen to have the fridge off to the side of the kitchen with the tea and coffee space. So that's what I end up doing, those little counters on either side. And I put some cleaning supplies over in that corner too by the door. Just thinking as you like come in, you have that little nook right there that you could put your broom, your mop or whatever, have it there. We don't have laundry in this house, so normally that's where you'd want it in a utility closet of some sort like that. Just have to work with what you can. And then I ended up going back and adding in kind of like the mudroom space, just some type of mini foyer area. And that's because we did get that Grange mudroom kit. I really wanted to use it in this space because I like that green swatch a good bit too. Now I did add that little island from the kitchen clutter kit, and every time I use that, I love putting it a little bit crooked because it has wheels on it. So I like the idea and the storytelling that we move it around whenever we need to. And then I put like the little rain boots by the door. I thought that was a cute little touch. We have our mail and packages over on this table. So this is kind of like the junk table. Whenever you come in, you put your mail, your keys, your phone, or whatever. You set stuff down there whenever you come through the door. And then I used that rug from Grange Mudroom as well because I love the autumnal vibes in it. Now, geometrically, I'm not a fan of the pattern and shapes for this type of build where it's supposed to feel a little bit older. And those kind of like sharp shapes don't really fit quite the vibe of like, I don't know, maybe something that would have been more leafy or florally or paisley in design would have worked great. But I think it actually ends up working really well with the space overall. And then I know it might be a little weird that I use that. I think that couch is from Industrial Loft. It has like some of the piping on the back of it, and I just really liked the orange though with the throw blanket that had the brown plaid. I thought that was like a really nice touch with the blanket. So just kind of ignore a little bit of the style with the frame of the couch, and then you're fine. Like if you can get over that, you're good. And that's why I liked putting it up against this other wall where you can't really see the back of the couch very well no matter where you are. So it kind of hides it somewhat. And then I love doing the mismatched recliners and chairs in here. And that cats and dog chair, I love it so much with the throw blanket on it. So I did that as a green to have a nice pop because as you can tell already without the clutter, it's looking heavily orange. Like there's orange everywhere, brown tones everywhere. So I needed some color to cut through that. So again, I'll add some yellows and reds throughout as well whenever I start to clutter it up. But I did want green to kind of be my primary accent color, so to speak. And that just brings in some of the colors from the windows a bit better, I feel like. Now, this space that's kind of like a hallway that's beside the living space and the dining space, I did use that as a little bit of a desk nook. So I like the idea that we work there, we have our computer there. And now I'm building the little foyer mudroom space. I end up putting that Grange mudroom bench off of the entryway here up against the wall there, and it actually fits really well, and I hid the back of it. So I actually treated it like it doesn't have a back. It's just like a normal bench, not necessarily like a love seat type thing or whatever. And I think that lends to the rustic vibe just a little bit more because you can see the stone behind it. And I loved using the stone. So I pulled that from, I think it's the same stone that I used from the chimney outside. So just keeping in mind, again, Tudor style, you have lots of woods and you have masonry. So I wanted to pull that masonry element to the inside of the house a little bit. I didn't want it to be a lot of stone inside. I still wanted the wood to take control of the house more so. And it's just lending more to the autumnal vibes itself. And then the platform trim, that's also why I put the stone for that as well. So we get a good combo. The bathroom, I wanted to keep the bathroom in this house a bit simpler. So with the older homes, especially like Victorian homes as well, bathrooms had some weird quirks to them. So I didn't want it to be like this fully like modeled bathroom. I did play test it as you just saw to make sure your sim could get there with the way I had it, but I didn't like it facing that way, so I ended up changing it anyway. But we have a little platform step up to get to the shower part, and I used that shower. I think that one's from Snowy Escape, and I used this checkered pattern. Now, I get it can be a lot, but it definitely ages the build, which is what I was wanting to do. I wanted something that like made it feel a little bit older, and anything checker patterned, not to say that it can't be done with modern homes. I've seen checkered flooring in modern homes and it looks beautiful with marble or something like that. But I just feel like anything checkered is already kind of a like hint to the past a little bit. I think having that all over the place on the walls from top to bottom definitely aged the look a bit more in that space. And then we have our bedroom off of that hall space on the other side. It's a pretty big bedroom too. And I really like this bed with the quilt on it where you get some reds, some greens, some yellows, and you do get a little bit more blue in this one. So I did incorporate blue a little bit more in the bedroom space. So the bedroom space has a different kind of color palette to the rest of the house. And I ended up using one of my favorite wallpapers, which is from Paranormal, and it's the red one. So I wanted to bring more of the red color into the bedroom space, whereas it's more orange and yellow toned in the rest of the house. So I think it adds a good bit of depth and like just warmth to the space for it to be just in the bedroom too. I thought made it a little bit more special. So when you go to your room, it's kind of like your own space. And it's just like the process or thought that maybe the person living here really likes red, but they thought that red around the house would be too much or it would clash with the orange tone wood that is already there unless they wanted to completely renovate or redo the entire house. But I like to think through some of those things that might be a little bit too literal in the sense of the game, but it is a simulation game. So I like to picture it in real life while I'm building it as well, and the thought process with that. And I love red. Red is one of my favorite colors. So I might have been incorporating myself a little bit into the storyline with that. And then I ended up working on the kitchen here, putting some cozy bistro shelves over to the side again, just sticking with the vibe of the open shelves. And I really liked the idea that the shelves were mismatched a little bit. So all of these shelves are from different packs. So I know one of them is from Jungle Adventure, the one on the left. The one on the right, I can't remember if that's from For Rent or not. I want to say it is, but I'm not quite sure. I don't think it's Cottage Living. Cottage Living has a different open shelf. That's just a single one with some stuff hanging down from it, like a ladle, and it has a cute little heart-shaped jar, or a jar with a heart shape on it. And then I have Cozy Bistro shelf. So I like the idea that we just kind of added a little bit of more shelving. Maybe over the years we needed more space for storage. So we just kept adding more and more shelves throughout our time living here. So that was the story that I was going with. I'm sticking to it. I put the cookie jar up high whenever I built this. I think I did anyway. I just took it down, but I'm pretty sure I put it back up pretty high. And I had all of the baking stuff out on the island. And I like the idea that we're baking cookies. You know, this time of year, I think, is the perfect time of year to start doing a lot of baking. It's whenever, if I'm going to bake, I do the vast majority of my baking from September to the end of the year. So, you know, I just thought it lent to the vibes coming in, smelling the house. It smells like pumpkin spice cookies, or, you know, just snickerdoodles, which is something I associate more with Christmas time. But, you know, just some type of baked good that's smelling up the house is just a really nice vibe to me. And then I spent a lot of time like cluttering all these shelves up a pretty good bit. Y'all know, if you don't, you're new here. I love to clutter my builds. I spend a lot of time cluttering builds. That's often why I don't do a ton of modern builds necessarily, because I'm not very great at being minimalistic with my builds. I like adding a lot of stuff and just giving it more character. I like coming up with storylines. We like coming up on the streams on Twitch over on storylines and creating storylines for characters that may live in these houses. And so that helps dictate kind of how we go about cluttering them, building them, the color schemes, the style a little bit. It just depends on what we're deciding and what we're in the mood to do at that time. So it's just always a fun time dealing with just thinking through those types of details whenever I'm doing the builds. I would say for this build, easily the kitchen is probably the one that had the most packs from other kits and expansion packs and things of that nature, just because we have so many kitchen specific kits and DLC. We have Country Kitchen, we have the Kitchen Clutter Kit, we have Cool Kitchen, we have all sorts of stuff. And then the expansion packs often come with a lot of kitchen things, if not an entire kitchen set. So it's just the kitchen is easy to incorporate the most amount of packs, in my opinion, just with how I build. Because even with a micro home, y'all, I be trying to fit the biggest kitchen possible. No matter how much space it takes up, I will easily give up the dining space to have a kitchen, and I'll just add an island piece or two with some bar stools and call that a dining area. Kitchens are easily the spaces that I clutter up the most with the most amount of DLC. I guarantee you, I would not be surprised if that was the case at all. And then I put some cookbooks over on top of the fridge. That's one of my go-to objects, actually, whenever I have open space on top of the fridge. I like the idea that maybe we keep a lot of our recipe books up there, and I think that's really realistic for a lot of people. I feel like I've definitely seen people put recipe books and cookbooks on top of their fridge space whenever you have the space, if it's not like built into the cabinetry. I just think that's really cute. This is another object that I use too, the one that I just put with like all of the little plants with the stack of books there. So, you know, either way, cookbooks. I was filling in a lot of the open shelving. I can't leave a shelf open, y'all. Like, if I have open shelves to work with, I can't leave them. Now, I ended up leaving the bottom shelf on both of the cabinets over by the fridge where my coffee and tea stuff is. I did leave those open, so that's very uncommon for me. I don't know why I did. I don't know. I felt like we could maybe leave that open and not overwhelm it too much. You know, we have some space to buy more things, more mugs. We need more mugs. We always need more mugs. If you're not familiar with why that's such a big thing for me, I actually have a mug of the stream every time I stream on Twitch. I start the stream off by featuring one of my mugs. I have a ton of them, so, you know, I can pretty much get through, especially the holiday season. Now, from this point forward, I could start breaking out a lot of my other mugs that I don't really use throughout the rest of the year. So I have plenty of mugs to go around and I'm always wanting more. It's not a great habit because I'm already running out of space in my kitchen, but I can't help it. If I like a mug, I got to get the mug. And then as you can see, that's the ceiling I ended up going with from Life and Death. I went back and forth on it because it didn't match the flooring, and usually I like to match the same wood on the floor with the ceiling. But I thought with this being an older home, maybe we can do a little bit more mismatch and have some quirky things about it. And I actually like that the ceiling was a little bit darker than the flooring. So usually you might see it the other way around, in my opinion at least, but I like that we could tie in more brown tones because like I said earlier, we don't just have the orange tones. I did incorporate some of the darker brown tones throughout the house too, whether it be in rugs, clutter, the fridge, the windows, anything like that. I think it helps tie it in a little bit more whenever you're in tab mode and you can actually see the ceiling than if it had been just all orange. So I did not want that. Now over here in the hall space, I also wanted to add some bookcases because this was like our study area. It's like a study nook because we have the desks. So I did add a couple of bookcases. I cluttered those up a little bit. I think that's a nice touch to add more things for your Sims to do anyway, because obviously reading is a great thing to do in The Sims. You can literally learn any skill for the most part just from reading a book. I always incorporate books in every build of mine. I mean, it's very much a staple, and I would recommend that you make it a staple because then you can like pretty much learn anything if you have bookcases in your build. And then I added the cross stitching just because that's a cute little vibe for an autumnal cottagey type build to me, and the knitting. And then we ended up like putting this cute little, I think that's the for rent lamp. That's one of my favorites. I love the swatches on that, and it's just a really pretty lamp. I like the kind of china design on it, like the typical blue and white china set that you have maybe with dining spaces. It has that same kind of design on it, and you can get it in green, which I thought looked really pretty with this. Now I'm starting to clutter up the fireplace mantles. So fireplace mantles are always a hit or miss with me. They'll either come very naturally or I really struggle with what I want to put on there. I think with this build, it was actually pretty easy to clutter it up. There were plenty of things that worked really well with this style and the color scheme that I had going on. Now, this plant over on the left, if you're not familiar with it, that came with the new Grange Mudroom Kit plant. And that one is like really cute and it looks really good sized up. So I actually sized it up on the fireplace. It's usually like a pretty tiny plant, and it looked great. So I ended up incorporating that, and I've been using that ever since in like all of my builds. It's so versatile, and it comes in some really good swatches. If you want something with a pop of color, you have that. If you want something muted, you also have that. And obviously a plant can go pretty much anywhere, so it just works really well. And then I added some curtains. I'm adding some throw pillows to the couch. Now, you might be wondering, like, why did you do like tan beigey colors with the pillows? And that's just because of the throw blanket. If you look at it, there are two different like kind of brown colors to it. There's that light brown, and then there's like a light orangey brown color. So I was trying to go off of that. So the pillows are to match the throw blanket, not the sofa or necessarily the space itself surrounding it. So that was the vibe with that maybe it was a set. I have a set in my living room that came with a throw blanket plus pillows. So I like the idea that maybe that was something that came together and we just kind of spread it out across the couch. Okay, so now we're getting into the bathroom with cluttering it. Like I said, I kept the bathroom relatively simple. Usually I like to add all sorts of shelves with all sorts of clutter and things like that, but I just didn't think for this build that was quite the vibe I wanted. And also it's just for one sim. So it's like, I don't really see the need to have tons and tons of bathroom clutter with all sorts of products and things when it's just one sim living there. So I was like, let's just stick a cabinet over the toilet and call it a day. That we can just pretend that all their stuff is in that cabinet. And then I put that towel display shelf that comes in the perfect wood tone over by the sink as well. Because in these older homes, usually with the Victorian homes, the Tudor homes, you have like a standalone sink. You don't usually have built-in cabinets like we see more so standard nowadays. Now, not saying that there were never cabinets in Tudor homes. Like, you can definitely have that for sure, and even Victorian homes. But it just wasn't necessarily back in the day. Old, like traditional style homes, it just wasn't the same. Now I'm like cluttering up the bedroom space, and I ended up putting more books in there. person who lives here has to like books. That's just like a give me. I love using these trunks. I probably overuse them in my build. Whenever I'm doing like older style builds, I just really like the concept of having different trunks all over the place in your house, in your bedroom, in your living room, in your office space, just chests and trunks everywhere, multi-purpose use of them. Like there's just a lot of things you can do with them. And then I ended up like putting some nice little clutter on the dresser. I put some cute little plants. I have a plant corner in that space, so I put a tiny little plant on the nightstand plus some plants on the floor over there. And then I ended up going back in and adding the cornucopia. I kind of forgot about this object when I started the build, but I was like, I have to put this in. So I rearranged the entire fireplace just so I could put the cornucopia on top of the mantle, because that was like the centerpiece I wanted for the mantle up there. So I ended up doing that and put some of the pumpkin decorations around the house as well. And then I used a little bit of horse ranch in the bedroom. I used the Artist Studio kits like shelf there by the door. I really like this item. It's small and you can still clutter up the little spaces on the shelf with it. So it ends up being a pretty nice object to use when you want to add more shelf space and also just take up more space on the wall, because it's tall but it's skinny and it goes up against the wall pretty well, so where it doesn't stick out either. So it's got a lot of pros about it and I really like using it. I put more books on the very top of it. I just think this is a great item to have by a door because you can always just put stuff on the shelf as you come in. Now we're getting to the exterior of the lot here, and just ignore the frame down here. I forgot to toggle off my overlays, so I'm sorry that it's sticking out like that. But we're like getting the trees laid out. I went on this tangent in the stream. I was like, whenever you get to the outside, always place your trees first, because I have gotten carried away to figuring out the layout for the outside and I get everything where I want it, and then I forgot to put trees. And when you forget to do something like that, and trees can be pretty large, and if you have a really large lot, you want to use large trees. Otherwise it looks a little bit silly if you use tiny trees on a really large lot. So I have always said to like put your trees first. Put your trees first, figure out where the trees you want to use look best, and then landscape around them and plan out around that. So I end up like switching the trees a few times. I've already switched them up quite a bit. I think I even cut it out with speed build a good bit, but I still already see some that I know I changed later. So I went back and forth on the tree situation out here, but I obviously wanted to go with oranges and yellows because we have so much orange on the house with the brick and the wood. I was really trying to focus on yellow as the primary color for our flowers. I used the yellow shrubs that I could. I thought this ended up turning out to be a pretty nice little build, and I ended up like putting a fishing hole over on the side too. I always feel like I use that as one of my go-to objects because whenever I have a side yard, it's like, what are you going to use that space for? Now you could have the backyard be the side yard, but we had enough space behind the house to make a backyard. So it was kind of like I had a backyard and a side yard. So it's like I don't need that much space, but I also don't want to just leave it empty. The fishing hole that I just put down, that's like one of my go-tos all the time. And then I actually did change the trees over on the right side of the lot, as you can see. And I end up putting the cute little flock of birds and the rabbit hole over in this little area between those trees. So it ends up being a cute space. And I put the foraging table out back. Now, one thing I wanted to do was add a garden. So I did put like this little built-in garden space. We end up eventually putting patchy in there as well. And then one thing I've only done in one other build was add a chicken coop. I don't really use a lot of these things. It's the same thing with horse ranch. Like we got all the horse stuff. I've never built a stable. I've never built anything for horses on a lot before. I've never put the horse objects that I can remember anyway. I need to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and like use some of these objects that I have and like build for animals. It's sometimes an afterthought for me. There are so many times whenever I've built a house and then I'm like, maybe we should add a dog or maybe a cat. And then I have to go back in and add some of the animal pet stuff all around the house. And it's just not something that comes to mind immediately for me, which is kind of embarrassing to say because I have a dog and I'm very much a dog lover. But I don't know. I don't always build with the intention of having cats and dogs and animals and pets in my house. So I don't know. It's just an afterthought for me whenever it comes to The Sims. And then I wanted to put this like bonfire space outside. I put the s'more station, very fall vibes to me. And then I came across this wagon object. I had never seen this before. I hope I'm not the only one that has never seen that before, but it had the little gnome next to it. It's like a cowboy gnome or something to that effect. It's so cute. I don't know why it took me this long to come across that, but I've done so many cottages, y'all. Like, cottages are one of my favorite types of builds to do. I've done so many of them, and I've never ever seen that object before. And it would have looked so cute in so many of those builds. I'll show it whenever I go to tour it, like to give you a closer look, but I had no idea that object existed. So it's just kind of funny the things that you come across whenever you're playing this game, and with how much you play the game. No matter how much I play the game, I always find so many new things all the time just when you think you've seen it all, and it's just like, I have no idea what that is. I've never seen this swatch of this object before. So it's always fun to see like what more you can always learn from this game that you have at your disposal to use, but you just don't, because there are so many objects and we get new DLC literally almost every week, it feels like. Now, one thing I came across too were these lights, which are really cool looking, and they almost look like windows. So one thing I said on stream actually was, you know how in cottage living, even if you don't know, in cottage living we have these debug windows where if you place them, it looks like windows from the outside, but they don't place like on the interior. So it's almost like a wall decor element. And those come in handy a lot whenever maybe you have wall decorations across an entire wall, but from the outside it looks weird and looks like you need a window there. You can use the debug window, because then from the outside, the house looks normal. And then on the inside, you can keep everything up against the wall that you have. So it comes in handy for those reasons. But those lights that look just like the windows, the stained glass windows, those you could almost piece together to be kind of like fake windows, even though they are lights. But they look really pretty when lit up. And so I thought I'd put those on the front porch, and that could be like our main source of light. I do add another light obviously by the door, because I don't know, it just feels like a requirement that you need to have a regular light by your door. But it ends up looking really pretty. And then we got the suggestion to put plants up the stairs in the chat, and I love that idea. So I ended up putting a couple of pumpkins as well. One thing, I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I love having people come over on Twitch whenever I'm streaming and building. Usually I have at least one build that's like a really large build that takes several streams to go through and do. But it's always fun to do multi-part streams on a build, because it gives the community enough time to give feedback, and you get to participate and add to the build. So I always love to hear suggestions in the chat on like things that you would like to see with the build and what we could do with it, what we could add, and get suggestions for things, because I get stuck sometimes whenever I'm building. I'm like, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, I don't know what I should do, and then I run suggestions, and then sometimes I'll put a poll in the chat and let you all decide what we end up doing. So if you want to join us over on Twitch, I have that link below. We'd love to have you join in and just have some fun, meet some people. We have a really nice community over there. We like to support one another in a lot of different ways, and it's just growing. We have grown a lot. We have over 500 people now, which is really awesome. But anyways, I'll get off of that, but we are working on this little corner right here, because I wanted to add a path from the front sidewalk over to the pond area, so you could walk over there to go fishing if you wanted to. And so I'm like putting some nice cute little decor space. I put the birdhouse, I put a gnome, I put the little signage there, like maybe we're telling people or directing them over to the pond area. And then I actually went back and added the stepping stones, and that ends up like adding a little bit more of a cottagey vibe. And we have this like orangey brown color with the stones, which works really well for this build. Like, I always feel like I have to put flowers or something up against a straight edge on a sidewalk like what I had before, and it just wasn't looking great because I needed it to be open on one side, and it just looks awkward if you do that. So I was a little bit stuck on that for a minute, and someone suggested using the stepping stones. I was like, yep, let's do it. And then I came across this debug dock, and I added that in, and I think that adds such a nice touch to it. Like the thought of someone coming up on the dock to go fishing, and you have that whole span that you can walk across to cast your line or whatever, catch some fish, And then I'm putting some like last minute touches on the landscaping and the decor, putting the lights out. So let's just go ahead and hop into the build, and I'll show you all the final product. This is the house. It's really pretty. I love the way this turned out. I think it screams autumn. It's so pretty. I love the sunflowers. That's always something that I love putting in my autumnal builds. We have our little sim over here. Our fishing hole over here. I'll just go ahead and show you all the outside. I put the swing set from Enchanted by Nature. I think that adds in a really nice character element to the outside over in this space. It's such a cute vibe. And then, like I said, I put the flock of birds. I had the rabbit, a bird bath over here. And then we have just some nice luscious landscaping. We have the chicken coop over here with some chickens. I even have a little baby chick right there. And then we ended up putting these patio lights, the orange ones, which is a really cute touch. Here's our garden space, backyard. This is what I was talking about. Chuck wagon with Trail Boss gnome. Isn't that cute? Like, please tell me I'm not the only one that didn't realize we had this little decorative object. And it comes with horse ranch. So, you know, I'm just like, I don't know how I've never seen that object before, but it is super, super cute. And it's not a debug object either. It's like, it's a normal object. I don't know how I've never seen it, but I had to add that in whenever I saw it. As we come in the front right here, which you can see I have some like nice little clutter. So this is our little mudroom space. I did put a burglar alarm. But have some nice little clutter here with our bags. We have umbrellas. We have our coat rack right off on the other side. Our bench here. Some warm lighting. Really cute space, I think. And then as you come in through here, we'll go ahead and go up to the living room space. Come up the stairs. This is our living room. Have cute autumnal vibes, I think, everywhere with the decor, with the candles and the leaves on the table here. This is the phone I was talking about earlier. I love this movie hangout coffee table. I think it's really cute. And then all of the fun decor objects over here. And then this is what I was talking about, this throw blanket and bringing the colors in with the pillows from that. I just think this is a really pretty house. I love the vibe of this house. And then we'll go ahead and go over to the kitchen area. So you can see we really cluttered up a lot of the shelves here. Shelves everywhere. I used the leaf curtains, which I think adds a nice little touch to the house as well. But I love, love, love the warm tones that we get in here. And then this island with the groceries on it, and we have the cookies. So it's just a cute little vibe. Our dining space, very simple, but also very spacious. I mean, it's one sim that lives here, so I like the picture that maybe the sim just has people over a lot. And then we have our little desk space over here off of that. Really cute vibe. And then we'll go into our bathroom real quick. Shower. And then we have our toilet over here. Vanity space, super cute vibes. I mean, look at that. You have such a nice view to like of the fishing hole. And then you come back out here and we can go into the bedroom space. This is what I was talking about. Like when you walk in here, the tone shifts so much, but it's like, it still feels like it's part of the same house, you know, with the fall vibes. But we have the books, we have the dresser. I put the music box up here. Really pretty view from here as well. The mirror, some plants. This is the plant corner I was talking about. And then we have some really fun clutter with the quilt over here. And I put the mallard duck. I feel like I don't use that object very much. I was like, for some reason it fits in with this house. So let's just do it. And then all of the shelves and stuff. So this is the other door that you can come off of to come outside. So I really like having the double, you know, exterior doors to the back. And then I do have it on the gallery already as Autumnal Tutor. So if you want to download the Autumnal Tutor, by all means, go for it. Like I said, it does use a pretty good bit of packs, so I'm really sorry about that. But I did do a limited pack build recently on a leaf retreat. So I did a vacation rental based on the falling leaves emoji as part of my emoji build series. So if you want to check that out, it is a limited pack build. So I did a limited pack build recently as well to make up for that. And it's also fall themed, so, you know, go for it. And if you're still here, thanks for making it to the end of the video. And I always like to ask a question to see who stuck around for the end, but let me know down below what one of your favorite things to do in the fall season is. For me, I really like to go out to one of the farms somewhere that has like corn mazes, pumpkin patches, like you can go get fudge, like I don't know, I just really like doing something like that in the fall season. And then if you want to check out the falling leaves emoji build, I'll put that over here for you. Again, thanks for making it to the end of the video, and special shout out to my Soul supporters. Thank you so much. With that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Bye. Y'all, I would love to have a house like this in real life. I just think it is absolutely gorgeous, and actually makes me think of American Horror Story season 1. If you know, you know.